who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Dzień dobry. This is Joanne Yanitsky, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the January 22nd, 2026 issue of the Am-Pol Eagle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Takeshimno. And that big storm that's coming. Oh, I've got family in North Carolina, and I'm nervous. And I'm nervous for everybody that's in the way of that storm. That's going to be a brutal. And Lord knows we've had our fair share, which is why we know exactly what can happen and how we don't want people to suffer and not be safe. So, enough weather. I skimmed through, didn't see any recipes, so you can relax unless you want phone numbers or email addresses or websites. Let's jump right in. We're going to go with the photographs because they're bright and colorful. And photos by Peter Sloan on the front page, 2 of them. And the caption reads, National Polka Month celebration was held at the Broadway Market in Buffalo, New York, January 17th. A few dancers took to the floor as the Buffalo Touch performed. And we have, and I'm going to guess, a mom and daughter dancing, young daughter, maybe 7, and maybe grandma and grandson dancing. And if I had to guess, I'd say this was a family dancing together, and that's a great thing. And then we have a nice photograph of Buffalo Touch playing. Let's see, trumpet, keyboard, accordion, guitar, and drums. Nice job, nice job. Then we have, and we'll be reading about this, we have Director of the Center for Credible Artificial Intelligence. His name is Przemysław Bieczek. Nice-looking young man. This AI stuff makes me nervous, so I like to learn about it, and we'll learn about it when we read about Mr. Bieczek. We have 2 photographs. They're courtesy of Mark Dabryczki, Eva Barczyk of PAHA, P-A-H-A, Małgorzata Kot, PMA's Managing Director, Ivona Flis, PAHA's First Vice President. And then we have Ivona Flis, First Vice President, and Karen Majewski, Present Stash Kmiec, with the Creative Arts Award. We'll find out more about that too. Nice job on the photographs. Okay. Poland refuses to deploy troops to Greenland amid NATO tensions. Lord knows there's a lot of tensions in the world. During a press conference on January 15th, Prime Minister Donald Tusk reiterated that Poland will not send military personnel to Greenland, dismissing any notion of a Polish contribution to the NATO exercise there. His remarks came after several European allies announced small deployments to the Arctic island in response to U.S. President Donald Trump's repeated calls for a U.S. takeover of Greenland. Tusk warned that an intra-NATO clash over Greenland would be, quote, the end of the world as we know it, end quote, emphasizing emphasizing Poland's commitment to NATO unity while rejecting, unilateral actions that could exacerbate East-West frictions. The statement aligns with Poland's broader diplomatic stance of supporting European sovereignty, and cautioning against escalatory moves that could destabilize the alliance. Analysts view the refusal as a signal that Warsaw seeks to preserve its strategic autonomy within NATO, even as it remains a staunch ally of the United States. Let's go to Polish news bites as long as we're talking about the old country. Poland declares 2026 Year of Polish Acceleration. Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced that 2026 will be a, quote, year of Polish acceleration, end quote, a branding campaign aimed at bolstering national security, infrastructure, and public order. He pledged to build, quote, the strongest army in Europe, end quote, accelerate road and rail projects, and adopt a tougher stance on crime, promising that anyone who breaks the law will, quote, bitterly regret it, end quote. The program follows a 2025 assessment that highlighted the need for a more robust defense posture amid regional tensions, and it dovetails with increased defense spending approved by the Sejm earlier this year. Coal producer JSW pressures unions for cost cuts. Jastrzębska Spółka Węglowa, JSW, Poland's largest coal producer, issued a stark warning to its workforce on January 2nd, saying that without union acceptance of a rescue plan, the company risks losing state aid. The plan proposes deep cost-cutting measures, including reductions in overtime, postponement of capital projects, and a restructuring of pension obligations. Poland's state assets minister has indicated that JSW needs roughly 3 billion zloty in liquidity to stay solvent through 2026, and the government is prepared to channel funds only if the company demonstrate a viable turnaround strategy. Union leaders have expressed concern over job security, but they acknowledge the precarious financial position of the miner, which has seen output decline amid Europe's shift away from coal. Talks on the agreement are due to take place as early as this week. Sometimes you think that things are only happening in our country like this, and then you find out it's pretty much the same all over the world. Okay, one more Polish news bite. Major cyber attack on Poland's grid repelled. Poland disclosed that a sophisticated cyber attack targeting its electricity network was thwarted in mid-January, narrowly avoiding a nationwide blackout. Government officials, including Digital Affairs Minister Krzysztof Gawkowski, said the assault attempted to disrupt communications between generation sites and grid operators across a wide swath of the country. While the exact perpetrators were not named, the ministry attributed the operation to groups linked to, surprise, Russian intelligence services, echoing earlier hybrid war tactics seen since the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Security analysts note that the attack differed from previous incidents by focusing on distributed renewable assets, solar farms, and wind turbines, as well as traditional power plants, indicating a broadened threat surface. Poland is now drafting legislation to equip critical infrastructure operators with advanced defensive tools and to improve real-time coordination with NATO cyber defense units. Poland's pretty smart. Okay. Let's go to the article about the Polish American Historical Association, or PAHA, P-A-H-A. National awards presented at PAHA Conference in Chicago. The 2026 Polish American Historical Association Conference in Chicago, that was January 8th to 11th, included sessions on the Polish American experience and the presentation of several national awards. The conference opened with Jan Lori's and Małgosia Kot's presentation, The Polish Museum of America, Past, Present, and Future. Daniel Pogorzelski led a walking tour of the Wicker Park neighborhood, home to the, quote, Polish Triangle, end quote, once the center of the world's Polonia, and for more than a century, the largest Polish population outside of Poland. A special remembrance was dedicated to Thaddeus Gromada. Conference sessions included contributing to American Polonia, Polish marks on the land, gendered journeys, World War I and the shaping of Polish diasporic identity, witness to war, Chicago is a Polish town, dividing lines, common ground, and being Polish across space, time, and language. The awards ceremony and banquet were held at the Polish Museum of America. Presiding over the ceremony was First Vice President Iwona Flis, PAHA President Karen Majewski, and Museum President Richard Owsiany offered the opening remarks. The awardees included Creative Arts Award, Staś Kmiec, director choreographer and folk ethnographer, in recognition of outstanding contributions to the field of the creative arts to promote an awareness of the Polish experience in the Americas. Mieczysław Hyman Award, Maria Zakrzewska for her career with the Chicago Public Library. Oscar Halecki Prize, Dr. John Michgiel, editor of Pol's Polonia and the Quest for Liberty. Skalny Civic Achievement Award, Małgorzata Kot, managing director of the Polish Museum of America. Dr. Lucia Mirowska-Kopecz, educator. Chicago Public Schools, Irena Frączek and Dawid Rydrzewski, activists in the Polish American Congress of Wisconsin. Swastek Prize, Dr. Anna D. Jaroszyńska-Kirchman for her article, Performing Pierogi. Amicus Polonii Award, Beth Holmgren, who has published widely on Polish literature, theater, popular culture, and film. And to wrap it up, James S. Pula, Distinguished Service Award, Neil Pease, Professor Emeritus of History at the University of Wisconsin. I have to check into this performing pierogi. Doesn't that sound interesting? Okay, now we're going to go to the article about AI. And this article is by Anna Bugajska. AI hacks our thinking system to appear correct, warns expert. AI models are designed to persuade and appear correct, but they do not truly understand the world, and this can make them dangerous in high-risk areas, according to Professor Przemysław Bieczek, director of the Center for Credible Artificial Intelligence, CCAI, at Warsaw University of Technology. Quote, models learn to hack our thinking system to convince us of something. As a result, they become extremely effective rhetorically and persuasively. Furthermore, they are packaged so that their answers appear correct, Bieczek said. The mathematician and computer scientist noted that machine learning methods have been in development for 50 to 60 years, with efficiency as the primary goal. Quote, for tasks such as recognizing tanks or cancerous tumors and x-rays, we have effective measures of whether large language models, or LLMs, are executing commands correctly. But there are a growing number of problems for which we cannot easily define and evaluate a good measure of effectiveness, he said. Discrimination presents a particular challenge. While there are laws prohibiting discrimination, we do not always know how to translate such a requirement into verification of LLM, large language models, performance. Without a good measure of discrimination, it is impossible to guarantee a fair AI system. And we live in a world that is historically unfair. So LLMs easily learn this injustice from historical data, Biacek explained. He stressed that while outdated biases in training data cannot simply be erased, AI systems can be calibrated, but only if we understand how they work. We need to take a break, and then we're going to continue the article on artificial intelligence. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Am-Pol Eagle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. So we just heard AI systems can be calibrated, but only if we understand how they work. Now we have a quote. Meanwhile, our understanding of AI has not kept pace with its development, Biacek said. One limitation of AI is its lack of knowledge about physical reality. Quote, when we want to explore areas that were not included in the training data, LLMs cannot predict the values or course of events. They have various strategies for what to do when they encounter such a no man's land, for example. They provide average values, Biacek said. He added that simply feeding AI textbooks on physics is insufficient. Quote, they can provide a definition and a formula, but they cannot deduce the implications of such an equation, he said, giving an example of AI's misunderstanding of reality. Quote, when we see a tail sticking out of a cupboard, we know there is a cat inside. The AI has no idea because it has never seen anything like it before. At one conference, we asked the AI how many R letters are in the English word strawberry. The model learned that there are 3. When we asked how many strawberries are in the letter R, it answered the same way, 3, he said. Biacek warned that the persuasive nature of AI is especially risky in the fields like medicine or defense. Quote, even specialists lose their vigilance when they see suggestions generated by a seemingly credible system. They then make mistakes they would not otherwise make, he said. Research at the CCAI studies AI-human interactions, emphasizing the need to tailor AI to users' contexts. Quote, designing AI models is similar to user interface design, he said. ChatGPT does not know who it is talking to, whether it is doing homework with a child, helping a scientist compile research results, or perhaps someone is using it to generate a funny image. A one-size-fits-all model does not fully meet the needs of any of these users, and in some cases, it can even be harmful. End quote. Biacek highlighted the risks of sycophancy, or AI, artificial intelligence, overindulging users. Quote, AI uses various tricks, flattery, and praise. It is great that you asked about it. It is good that you pointed it out. It is very rare, but in some people, it causes adverse reactions, even psychosis. People subconsciously feel that while the AI appears to be praising them, something is not right because there is no reason to praise them, he said. He added that AI systems can occasionally recommend harmful behaviors or content. Quote, some algorithms recommend unfavorable behaviors or content that can rarely, but still, lead to depression, especially in children and adolescents, and even increase suicidal tendencies, Biecek said. Quote, we need to teach AI not to harm us. This applies to younger, more impressionable individuals and older people who lack the appropriate tools to verify what the technology proposes and are prone to over-trusting it, end quote. Developing reliable AI presents both mathematical and social challenges. The mathematical objects we described are very difficult. We are talking about functions with billions of parameters. We do not even have the tools to analyze them. There are also many issues unrelated to technology. Average users want to use LLM differently, the police differently, and lobbyists have different goals. All of this must be taken into account, he said. Looking ahead, Biecek said, AI will have transformative effects on society. Quote, interesting times lie ahead because we are certainly not dealing with a fad that will last a few years. We are on the verge of a massive technological transformation, and society's reactions to it may vary greatly. It is unclear, for example, how the labor market will react to the increasingly widespread presence of artificial intelligence. In my opinion, Poland can greatly benefit from this transformation, he said. I think we should get Professor Biecek to the United States and assess how we are benefiting the artificial intelligence. I think we can call it a revolution safely, because it certainly is changing the way things are happening and information is being processed in this country. I'm going to read the editorial today. The right way to protest. In recent months, the United States has once again been convulsed by waves of protest. Dissent is not only a right in a democracy, it is often a moral necessity. Yet there is a growing unease that too many contemporary protests have drifted away from the disciplined nonviolence that once gave social movements their greatest power and legitimacy. History offers clear lessons. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. understood that nonviolence was not passivity, but a form of moral confrontation. By refusing to mirror the brutality he opposed, King forced the nation to see injustice in stark relief. Peaceful marchers facing dogs, fire hoses, and jail cells revealed where the true violence lay. The movement's strength came not from rage alone, but from restraint, courage, and a relentless appeal to conscience. More recently, Poland's solidarity movement demonstrated the enduring effectiveness of a nonviolent action. Workers, intellectuals, and clergy challenged an authoritarian state through strikes, dialogue, and collective resolve. Their refusal to embrace violence preserved public support and ultimately helped bring about systemic change without civil war or societal collapse. By contrast, protests from the political right or left that descend into vandalism, intimidation, or street battles risk undermining their own goals. They alienate potential allies, harden opposition, and provide convenient justification for repression. Worse, they shift attention away from the injustices that sparked dissent in the first place, replacing moral urgency with fear and fatigue. This is not an argument against protest, but a plea for reflection. Nonviolence is not outdated. It is demanding. It requires patience, organization, and faith in the power of moral example. As the nation grapples with deep grievances, it would do well to remember that lasting change has rarely come from shouting the loudest or striking the hardest. I have to say that's a very thoughtful editorial. And if you've been paying attention to what's going on in Minnesota, you'll understand the implications in that editorial. Okay, Poles love to celebrate their heritage, by Benjamin Fiore, Society of Jesus, Canisius University. Following this year's commemorations of the millennial anniversary of the baptism of Poland and birth of the Polish nation, in which Polish cities and towns were filled with people, many in period costumes, dancing the Polonaise in the streets, Poles once again turned out in droves to mark the Feast of the Epiphany. Over 2 million people filled over 940 of the country's communities in one of the largest of Europe's public celebrations to mark the Festival of the Three Kings. Known as Orszak Trzech Król, Three Kings Procession, the annual event draws participants dressed as the biblical characters and singing Christmas carols as they process toward nativity scenes erected in the public squares. In Warsaw alone, the Three Kings Procession Foundation prepared 600,000 crowns, 150,000 songbooks, and 200,000 stickers for the event. The first such event took place in Warsaw in 2009 as an extension of a nativity play performed by students from a local high school. Epiphany, a national holiday since 2011, now sees such processions growing steadily across the country. This year, the participants processed under the slogan, "Rejoice in Hope," taking a cue from this year's Jubilee of Hope in Rome. As, quote, pilgrims of hope, end quote, says Anna Murawska, the events director in Warsaw, quote, we will hear a lot not only about maintaining hope in everyday life, but above all, trusting God, His mercy, and meeting Him in heaven, end quote. New Year's Eve is another occasion for the public to celebrate together. Unlike New Year's Eve festivities in U.S. cities, the Polish Catholics gather at special masses either on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day that feature the singing of the Te Deum, the traditional ancient hymn of thanks to God for the past year's blessings, and petition for grace in the new year. The religious commemoration is also tied with the Solemnity of Mary, Mother of God, on New Year's Day. These counterbalance the secular celebrations, which also take place with balls, concerts, and festive gatherings. Praying the Te Deum on New Year's connects Polish national culture with profound Catholic faith, offering a spiritual closure and also a hopeful anticipation for the new year. Okay, moving on to 2026 Polonia's calendar. Sunday, January 25th, Opłatek and Kolenda. Now that I'm going to start reading this, I remember seeing that because of the weather and upcoming storms, that date has changed. I'm pretty sure it was changed to Sunday, February 1st. So, if you have any interest in attending the dinner, singing of Kolenda, sharing of Opłatek, check out Andy at polishprogram.com. That's an email address. I don't know if Andy has a web page. That's Andy Gołębiowski, who does the radio show. But I'm 99.9% 99% positive that after the publishing of this edition, that program was postponed to the following Sunday. I do have a phone number. Let's do that one. 716-510-7562. 716-510-7562. Sunday, February 1st, Blessing and Procession with Thunder Candles. Presentation of Jesus in the Temple, St. Casimir Church, Cable Street in Buffalo, New York. Mass is at 10 a.m. Saturday, February 21st, Punchki and Polish Pottery with instructor Michelle McLeod at St. Stanislaus Marian Hall, noon to 3 p.m. Includes paints, stencils, choice of bisque piece, and punchki. The cost is $50. You have to pre-register. Phone number 716-854-5510. Again, 716-854-5510. And on Sunday, March 7th, another Polish pottery workshop. It's at Our Lady Help of Christians Lower Hall, 4125 Union Road at Genesee Street. It's from noon to 3 p.m. $50 includes one item, plus paint brushes, designs, patterns, and instructions from Michelle McLeod and Barbara Vevrovsky, plus light refreshments. Call Kathy, phone number 716-893-7885 for information and registration. I'm going to do the phone number again, 716-893-7885. So you can have punchki with your Polish pottery on Saturday, February 21st, or you can have light refreshments on Saturday, March 7th at the Polish Pottery Workshop at Our Lady Help of Christians. Both of them sound like marvelous, marvelous events. Next break. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Am-Pol Eagle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Moving along here. This week in the history of Buffalo's Polonia. The following is a list of events that occurred during the week of January 22nd to January 28th, back in the day. On January 24th, 1844, Henry J. Glavatsky is appointed to serve as master and examiner in the Chancery Court for Genesee County. Forced into exile after the uprising of 1830, Glavatsky eventually settled in Batavia and became the first lawyer of Polish descent in Western New York. January 25th, 1874, Bishop Stephen Ryan presides at ceremonies dedicating the first church used by the parishioners of St. Stanislaus Parish in Buffalo, New York. On January 26, 1889, a fire completely destroys the original church of St. Adalbert Parish in Buffalo. On January 27, 1915, at the Sattler Hotel in Buffalo, Bishop Peter Rode opens a convention of Polish priests. With more than 400 clergymen in attendance, the convention considered the urgent need for sending relief to the people of Poland suffering from the ravages of the First World War. On January 28, 1917, in ceremonies at Dompolsky Hall, Buffalo's Polish community honors Vincent Sutolchinsky, one of the last surviving members of the revolutionary forces of the 1863 Polish uprising. These little historical tidbits, reminders, always amaze me. The first three, when I thought about the dates, my grandparents weren't even born yet. Maybe in 1889, one of my grandparents would have been born. Probably were. All right, so the first two, 1874 and 1888. I know they weren't born yet. I've got the dates. So that just amazes me that Polonia was being created in Western New York. My grandparents weren't even born, and they were born in Poland, hadn't come to this country, and Polonia is being created right on streets and neighborhoods that still exist. Certainly changed, but still exist. I think that's just amazing. Okay, new year brings new season and call for new Chopin singers. The Chopin Singing Society is announcing the beginning of a new year of music and welcoming new members after a Christmas season of 5 performances, including the WBBZ Special, a Christmas celebration with the Chopin Singing Society 2025, which is available online. As director, Dr. Brad Wingert prepares a new round of music for 2026. The Society invites new members to join us. There is a special focus on celebrating America's 250th anniversary and the Polish-American heroes who were a part of the Revolutionary War, something which will be highlighted in the upcoming Chopin birthday celebration on March 22nd, 2026 at 2:30 p.m. at the Montante Cultural Center on the Canisius University campus, which will include the Canisius University Chorale, joining with the Society and also featuring Chopin's piano music. It is sponsored by the Permanent Chair of Polish Culture at Canisius University and the Polish Arts Club of Buffalo. Other events planned for 2026 are Dingus Day with St. Stanislaus Church, the Polish Singers Alliance of America competition and concert, that's in May, celebrating with the Kalina Singing Society on its 125th anniversary in June, some summer programs, and the 127th anniversary concert in October. With a year packed with music, new singers are invited to join at rehearsals on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. at Potts Banquet Hall, 41 South Rossler, Cheektowaga. All are welcome. So, sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses, step up to the challenge. If you sang in church choir, maybe when you were in grammar school, maybe you sang in high school chorus, maybe you sang with a barbershop quartet or something, or maybe you just like to sing and you sing in the shower. Check out Potts Banquet Hall on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. Maybe you just show up and watch and listen and see if you think it's for you. Give it a shot. Okay. Let's see here. We have a photograph courtesy of Christine Palczewski. Mergers and Challenges. Father Carl Gales, SVD, pastor of Our Lady of Africa Parish in Chicago, presented a Jesus is Here conference on Saturday, January 17th, 2026, at St. Stanislaus's Social Center in Buffalo. The presentation, sponsored by the Road to Renewal Office, showed that mergers and challenges exist within other areas of the country, and not only in Buffalo churches. Father Gale's parish was formed through the merger of 5 diverse parishes. He spoke about breakdowns and breakthroughs in his personal life and within the challenges of the merger. He is a musical prodigy, and in his youth, as a concert pianist, performed at Carnegie Hall in New York City. He's at a podium, Father Carl Gales, and the background is it's probably a slide for his presentation, and it says, "Jesus is Here, Trials and Resurrection Conference." Nice looking slide, whoever did that one. Okay, moving right along. More photos courtesy of Christine Palczewski. A Mass of Remembrance for those buried in St. Stanislaus Cemetery was held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at St. Stanislaus Church in Buffalo, New York. The Mass, with celebrant Father Cole Webster, honored the legacy of deceased family members and friends, celebrated their life's impact, and provided an opportunity for community prayer and support. Candles were distributed to those present to take home and illuminate in memory of their loved one. Following the Mass, a light reception was held in the Marian Hall. Looking at the pictures of some buffet, hot pans. I know what the name is, and I'm having a brain freeze here. The light reception, or the light food, looked quite hearty. Okay. Plan set for Mardi Gras 5. Huh, that sounds cool. The Buffalo Touch and Lee Ron Zydeco will highlight Mardi Gras 5, hosted by the Big Easy in Buffalo at Potts Banquet Hall on Sunday, February 15th. The event features local legends Lee Ron Zydeco and the Buffalo Touch Polka Band playing separately and together to celebrate the season. They'll also be joined by special musical guests Captain Tom of Captain Tom and the Hooligans and Kid Kyle, the Brass Machine. The dance floor will be open. So will the bar and restaurant, and there will be plenty of seats. Patrons are invited to wear their best Polish or New Orleans outfits. I wonder if you could combine them. Ron Davis, a.k.a. Lee Ron Zydeco, is a professional musician with over 50 years of experience in recording and live performance. His credits include the Four Tops, Spencer Davis, Otis Rush, Bernard Purdy, Sean Costello, and the Dirty Dozen Brass Band. In 1991, he formed Lee Ron Zydeco and the Hot Tamales. The band was the first in the Buffalo area to blend bluesy Cajun and Tex-Mex music into a roots sound. The group performs throughout the eastern United States. High energy, entertaining, a good time, and, quote, plenty of dancing is how to describe shows performed by the Buffalo Touch. This award-winning polka band performs music sure to put a smile on the face of everyone, young and old alike. The Buffalo Touch has received 3 Grammy nominations for Best Polka Album and were the sole representatives of Western New York at the 45th, 46th, and 51st Annual Grammy Awards. Since 2007, the Big Easy in Buffalo has brought New Orleans and Louisiana music and culture to the Western New York region several times a year for free and low-cost live performance, as well as music education and mentoring for local musicians, students in the community. Through the Big Easy in Buffalo, thousands of students, dozens of local bands, and countless audience members in Western New York have been exposed to this unique American culture. Doors open at 1 p.m. The show starts at 2 p.m. Tickets are $12 in advance, $15 at the door. A reserved table of 10 is $100. Advance tickets now available at Potts Deli and Grill. You can also visit The Big Easy in Buffalo, no spaces, thebigeasyinbuffalo.org. Tickets are available through eventbrite.com if you know how to work your way through that one. And again, the date, February 15th, if you're going to do Eventbrite. Okay, let's take our last break, and then we're going to jump into Polkas on Tap. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Am-Pol Eagle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Polkas on Tap. We have Saturday, January 31st. It's a National Polka Month celebration. Potts Banquet Hall, 41 South Rossler Avenue in Cheektowaga, New York. At 6 p.m., if you bring $10, the Kaisertown Polka Band will have your toes tapping. On Sunday, February 15th, Marta Grosky, we talked about this. It's at Potts Banquet Hall, 41 South Rossler Avenue in Cheektowaga, New York. 2 p.m., $12 if you get your tickets in advance, $15 at the door. Tickets are at Potts or thebigeasyinbuffalo.org. And you're going to have Buffalo Touch, Leron Zydeco, special guest Kid Kyle and Captain Tom and the Hooligans. And I think there were some others. Sunday, February 22nd, Polka Buzz at Polish Nook, 2242 Cutterback Avenue in Niagara Falls, New York. It's at 2 p.m. $10 will get you in, and New Direction will be playing for your dancing pleasure. Sunday, March 15th at Potts Banquet Hall, 41 South Rossler Avenue in Cheektowaga from 3 to 7 p.m. $10 will get you listening to New Direction again. And Wednesday, March 18th, the Polka Boosters meeting at Polish Falcons, 445 Columbia Avenue in Depew, New York. Doors open at 7 p.m. with music beginning at 7:30, Kaisertown Polka Band. You can get more information by calling 716-771-1076. Again, 716-771-1076. Okay. Oh, here is my friend Tom Tadapachki and Tom Talk. There is a photograph of Garden of Sweets. There's also a little logo for Mr. Softy. I think looking at this, and I don't think I've seen this before, Mr. Softy appears to be the original Conehead. I wonder if the Conehead vendor at the ballpark, Bison's ballpark, knows this. Okay, remembering hot sunny days on the east side. This isn't the usual time of year when people think about ice cream. In fact, many ice cream specialty shops are closed for the winter. But for me, any time is a good time for ice cream. When I was growing up on the east side of Buffalo, the big place to get ice cream and other confectionaries was the Garden of Sweets. There was the original one on Williams Street and another on Bailey Avenue. The Williams Street one moved later to Broadway near Liddell, Liddell, not sure how to pronounce. Garden of Sweets was a classic old-fashioned ice cream parlor and candy shop that dated back to the 1920s. Around Easter, we often walked over to the William Street store to see the amazing display of chocolate bunnies of all sizes. They also had white chocolate bunnies, which I thought looked weird and didn't really taste that good. I guess it's technically considered to be chocolate since it's made from the same cocoa beans as dark and milk chocolate, though it lacks the brown cocoa solids. I didn't care for the pale color or creamy sweet taste of so-called white chocolate. By the way, I also found it strange that the shop sold milk chocolate nativity scenes, but at least they tasted good. When I was little, there was another ice cream shop closer to my house on Sweet Avenue called Paradise of Sweets. Not to be confused with Garden of Sweets. It was located at 1078 Broadway across from Dumpolsky. Like Garden, Paradise of Sweets was run by a Greek family and had the beautiful classic soda shop interior with marble tops and wooden booths. I can recall having ice cream floats as well as lime and cherry colas mixed by the owner. By the mid-1960s, the Paradise of Sweets was demolished along with the rest of the stretch of Broadway from Lapeer to Waltz Avenue. Part of the block became the site of a Carol's restaurant. Carol's was one of the short-lived fast food franchises of that era. Like the Red Barn, H. Saltfish and Chips, Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips, and Henry's Hamburgers. After a brief run, Carol's was replaced by a Burger King, which is still there. Interestingly, Carol's continues to operate as a publicly traded company and today is the world's largest owner and operator of Burger King restaurants. Also on that block, at the corner of Lapeer, a new library was constructed. It replaced the Ives Branch Library that was at 617 Fillmore Avenue across the Mickiewicz Library. That building originally housed the Polish Cooperative Savings and Loan Association and later was the home of the Polish Army Veterans Association Post No. 1. The new library was named in honor of former health commissioner Dr. Francis Franczak in 1965. The Franczak Library was closed by the county in 2005 and today houses a hardware store. The place to go for a quick, inexpensive ice cream was the Dairy Bar, a seasonal ice cream stand on Memorial Drive near Broadway. For a time, it was operated by a man named Stanley Novak, although it also had different owners and was known by a couple of different names over the years. The big attraction at the Dairy Bar was frozen custard. Traced back to Coney Island in the early 1900s, frozen custard, or soft serve, was created by adding egg yolks to ice cream. It had a smoother texture and thicker consistency, and it came out of a metal dispenser. For a little bit extra, you could get some rainbow sprinkles or dipped in a chocolate or cherry coating. Sattler's, which had just about everything, also had a custard stand. Dairy Bar is long gone, but there are a few independent seasonal ice cream stands in the area, like Francile's in Blaisdell, yum, Hannah's in North Buffalo, the Village Scoop in Lancaster, the Pink Cow in Alden, and Cone King in West Seneca. There weren't food trucks back then, but there were various mobile food vendors that sold milk, fruits, vegetables, and other items. However, what really got the neighborhood kids excited was hearing the familiar chimes of the Mr. Softy truck nearby. A faint sound of that catchy jingle got youngsters out of the houses and trying to figure out where it was and where it was heading. You didn't have to live on the east side to be visited by a Mr. Softy truck. Mr. Softy is a New Jersey-based franchisor that started in 1956. The company was huge in the Northeast at the time and frequently challenged imitators with names like Master Softy and Mr. Softy, spelled S-O-F-T-Y, who tried to copy everything from the jingle to the truck design. Mr. Softy is still in business, though I haven't seen or heard one in quite a long time. I have to invite Tom to Lackawanna because Mr. Softy comes down my street in the summertime. And the adults and the kids go out for Mr. Softy. Okay, I continue. I could also stop by one of the nearby corners for a packaged ice cream treat. Places like Jean and Clara's on Podjedevsky's, Hank Wolf's and Steve's on Broadway, Walt and Jane's on Kent, and Vicky's on Newton. A favorite treat was the Nutty Buddy, an ice cream cone with vanilla and chocolate ice cream, chocolate and peanuts. We also like Skippy cups, a plastic cup with vanilla ice cream that came with a little wooden spoon. We sometimes opted for fudgesicles, creamsicles, or push-up pops. Back home, we usually had a gallon of Seal Test ice cream in the freezer. Most of the time, it was Neapolitan, which was comprised of equal sections of strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate ice cream. I think my mother got it to give each member of the family their favorite flavor. Seal Test ice cream was a big dairy brand back then, and it even maintained a production facility at 235 Elm Street in Buffalo. We bought the ice cream, which came in square cartons, not tubs, from one of the local supermarkets like Bell's or Super Duper. The world has changed a lot since those days, but the joy of eating an ice cream cone on a hot summer day or even a cold winter day still remains. Amen, Tom Tadapachki. And as I scroll down to read this article, there is a great photograph of a container of Seal Test Neapolitan ice cream. And some people didn't scoop the ice cream. I guess you scooped it if you put it in a cone or in a bowl. But you could slice the ice cream. Literally take a knife and you took off all the outer wrapping and you had this big square brick of ice cream. And you could slice it like you would a cake. And you could even slice the slice into halves or thirds and serve it with cake. It was a very neat way to serve ice cream. And if you were really smart, you cut the box down and rewrapped it, and it lasted until your next binge. Okay, let's see if I can squeeze anything else in here, because we're getting down to the wire. Let's go over some photographs. Actually, this is current. Photos by Peter Sloan. A 4-alarm fire destroyed the former St. Anne's 4-story school building at 501 Elmsley on Buffalo's east side on January 16th. The building was vacant, and thank goodness no one was hurt. The former church was not damaged, but damage is estimated at $600,000 to the school building, and an emergency demolition was requested. The cause of the fire is under investigation. There is another photograph by Am-Pol Eagle, and that's an aerial photograph. He was up very, very high to get that photograph. A sad day for the east side of Buffalo for that fire. I should say days, because that fire did go on, and I believe the firemen had to come back because it rekindled 2 or 3 days afterwards. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the January 22nd, 2026 issue of the Am-Pol Eagle. We read from the Am-Pol Eagle every Saturday at 3 p.m. Your reader has been Joanne Yanitsky. Thank you for listening. Do widzenia.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Grand Island Niagara County Tribune Sentinel. At 5 o'clock, we have the Lockport Union Southern Journal. And at 6 o'clock, we got the Wall Street Journal Off Duty. Stay tuned for these readings and more. If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print